Welcome to my 15-minute Masterclass series, where we dive into the nitty-gritty of essential knitting topics, all in the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee, sip a martini, or untangle one skein of yarn. Here's the deal. I know you're busy. You've got projects to finish, swatches to ignore, and possibly a dog giving you the side eye for not knitting him a cashmere dog bed. So I've trimmed down the fluff and packed these episodes with just the good stuff. Whether you're here to master swatching, today's topic, row counting, yarn substitution, or reading your knitting, you're in the right place. And if you're not here for that, stick around anyway. I promise there will be something worth unraveling. Ready? Needles up, let's get at it. Swatches. Love them or hate them, a properly made and measured swatch can be the difference between a successful project and one that ends up in the back of your closet or buried in a drawer. In this video, I'm going to show you why you need to swatch, how to make a swatch, and how to avoid those lying liar gauge swatches. Right, Oscar? So grab your needles and a ball of yarn, and maybe a cool drink, and let's dive into the world of swatching. Let's start with the big question. Why even make a swatch? The first reason is the most obvious: to check your gauge. Every pattern lists a gauge. It's usually X stitches over 4 inches or 10 centimeters. And whether you care about matching the pattern gauge or not, I highly recommend that you at least know what your gauge is before you start your project. But swatching isn't only about gauge. You also need to test the fabric. Is it too stiff? Is it too loose? Is it going to work well for your project? Do you even like it? I love this one. Testing color combinations. Here's a sampler I knit to test different multicolored yarns. What looked great in the skein didn't work in the swatch. On one of these, the colors disappeared completely. Testing for color fastness. Have you ever had a dark yarn color bleed into a light one? It hurts. Swatching can save you that headache. Fortunately, this one did not bleed, but I'm glad I tested it because red is notorious for bleeding. Yeah, sorry about that, Oscar. And one of my very favorite reasons for swatching is to practice a complex knitting stitch or chart. It's amazing how much easier the actual knitting of the project will go when you have already worked out all the bugs of that chart. You understand how to do it. You maybe even have already memorized it by the time you get to knitting the garment or scarf or shawl or whatever it is you're making. I always find it makes a huge difference for me. Now, these are just a little handful of reasons why swatching is such a great idea. If you have your own reasons for why you love to swatch, let us know down in the comments. All right, you ready to swatch? Here's how to make a really good one. Start by casting on more stitches than you need. If the pattern says you need 26 stitches for 4 inches, cast on 40. This gives you lots of room to measure away from the edges of your swatch where tension can be uneven. Do not bother to make your swatch pretty by adding a garter stitch or other kind of border. At best, it does nothing, and at worst, it can affect the tension of the stitches inside the swatch. Use running markers on either side of the number of gauge stitches you're supposed to have. If you're not familiar with running markers, I'll be teaching you all about them in the next masterclass in this series. In the meantime, here's a brief demo of how they work and just one of the many uses for running markers. Just for fun, let's test this yarn and see if it knits to the gauge it says it does on the label. So this particular yarn, which is Drops Nepal Wool and Alpaca, knits to a gauge of 17 stitches by 22 rows per 4-inch square on a 5mm needle. We'll grab a 5mm needle. We're going to cast on 31 stitches, just so we have some extra space on either side of that 17, and knit a couple of rows, and we'll come right back. Ta-da! We have 31 stitches and a few rows just magically knit. And we also just happen to have a couple of pieces of yarn to be our running markers to measure our gauge. Now, 31 minus 17 is 14, and half of 14 is 7. So we are going to knit 7 stitches. So let's knit 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we're going to drop our first running marker between stitch 7 and stitch 8. And then we're going to pick up the yarn, and we're going to knit 17 stitches, which is the amount we need for our gauge. 17, and we're going to take our second running marker and drop it after that 17th stitch. It's just lying between the stitches like that, and then we carry on knitting. And now we're going to work 5 rows really, really fast. Watch this. And here we are, back at the same spot, those 7 stitches in where our running marker is. I actually did 6 rows instead of 5 so that I could come back to the right side row to show you the flip. It's just a little easier. How do I know I have 6 rows, Nicole? Well, this is how you know. Our running marker is down here. And if I gently pull those 2 columns of stitches away from each other, I can see the strands in between those 2 columns. Each one of those strands is a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can do as many rows between the running markers as you like. I tend to do 5s or 10s, but sometimes I will do other numbers, and we'll talk about that next time. So the next step is to take that marker and bring it between the needles and flip it to the back. Now we'll knit over to our next marker and do the same thing. Oh, one more stitch. And here we are at the next marker. Again, pull those apart a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I flip my marker to the back and carry on knitting. So you can see here that I went back and forth about every 5 rows on this one, which has created a line on either side of those stitches that I'm supposed to have in a 4-inch space. And I recommend that you continue knitting your swatch for a good 3 or 4 inches and then bind off. Now we'll go talk about what we do with it next. Okay, so like we saw in the video, you're going to have a running marker at the start and at the end of your gauge area. But before we do any measuring, you are going to block your swatch. You need to wash it the same way you intend to wash the finished project. Roll it up in a towel, squeeze the excess water out, then beat it up a little. Pull it in all directions quite firmly. Lay it flat, smooth it out. Do not pin it unless it is lace or your project instructions tell you to pin out your swatch. Once it's completely dry, you're going to measure between the markers. If the second running marker lands outside the 4-inch mark, your gauge is too loose and you need to go down a needle size. If the second running marker lands inside the 4-inch mark, your gauge is too tight and you need to go up a needle size and try the whole thing over again. Like I said, you're going to learn all about running markers in the next masterclass. I know you might have a sad story to tell me about how you made a swatch, you got gauge, and then you knit the sweater and it turned out way too small or way too big. In other words, your swatch lied to you. Let's talk about why gauge swatches sometimes lie. First, different needles. If you swatch with one type of needle, like metal, but you knit the project with another type of needle, like wood, your tension can change. I find that on wood needles, I knit tighter. Always use the same needle type and preferably the same brand for both your swatch and your project. Another issue might be yarn twist. If you pull yarn from the center of a cake, you might be inadvertently adding twist, which can tighten your gauge. You see, if I pull this and let it go, how it twists back on itself? This center pull cake is twisting my yarn as I pull it out. In order to keep your yarn relaxed, there are two things you can do. If you happen to have a handy dandy yarn caddy, you can just easily and smoothly pull that happy relaxed yarn from the outside of the cake. Or you can go old school and wind your yarn into a ball, drop it in a pretty yarn bowl, and pull. Whichever you decide to do, just make sure that you use the same method throughout your whole project to keep your tension even from start to finish. Another common issue is flat versus circular knitting. If your project is knit in the round, you probably need to swatch in the round. Most people knit tighter in the round than they do flat because they're knitting every row. So don't skip this step. You can knit completely in the round, as I have with these two swatches, or you can do a speed swatch. That's where you knit every row from the right side and you just drag the yarn around the back and start over again. It's a quick way to simulate knitting in the round without casting on a ton of stitches. This one, the carried yarn across the back has been cut so that we can lay the swatch flat and block it. If you want an even slicker method of speed swatching, click on the link above me. There's a great speed swatch method in there. If I haven't convinced you yet, here are some real-life examples of why swatching matters. This lovely linen swatch helped me realize that this fabric was too see-through for me. So by blending that lightweight linen with light merino, I created a denser, more wearable fabric, and they are both the same gauge. Swatching saved me from knitting an entire tank top that I would not have loved and probably not have worn. Here's a swatch that I did to make this Merle cabled cardigan. After working out the swatch, I realized the yarn didn't really suit the pattern or the cable, and I wasn't loving how it was coming out. So obviously I avoided hours of wasted knitting time, as it would have taken me probably getting halfway up the body before I realized I wasn't in love with this cable. I get it. Swatching feels like extra work, but trust me, it's worth it. A well-done swatch can save you hours of frustration and ensure that you really love that finished project. If this video convinced you to give swatching another chance, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and I hope to see you next time for all the ins and outs on running markers. In the meantime, here's one of my videos that the YouTube algorithm thinks you would like to watch. Keep those needles clicking. I say goodbye. Oscar says goodbye, and we'll see you for the next class. Bye.